I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse, trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. The skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Paranormal Odyssey Live. Hope everyone is doing well out there tonight on this Friday evening. As you can see, I am flying solo tonight. I don't know what happened with Lisa. I spoke with her a couple hours ago, and everything was good. And it's not like her to just not be here. I hope that everything is all right with her. Maybe just had run in traffic or something like that. If she jumps on, I'll make sure to get her on, but we definitely hope that Lisa is all right. All right. Glad that everybody could hang out. We got Miss Tiffany, as always. Tea Time with Tiffany. Thank you so much for your continued help in the chat, ma'am. I appreciate that. Carson is here as well. Thanks for hanging out, Carson. All right, everybody, if you have not done so already, would you hit that subscribe button? I really would appreciate that. If you've had an encounter and would like to come on and share it with me on an episode, either this, Paranormal Odyssey Live, or podcast form, love to talk to you about that. But the first step is shooting me an email to wayne@paranormalworldproductions.com. Want to invite everyone to head over to our website, paranormalworldproductions.com. Check the show out over there. Maybe pick you up some merch. Not just this show, guys. It's the Sasquatch Odyssey, True Crime Odyssey, the Brian's other shows. Put a lot of work goes into putting this stuff out there at a what we think is a pretty high level. We're proud of it anyway. So a lot of work goes into that, guys. If you want to help us out, show some support, we would appreciate it. And buying you some Paranormal World Productions merch is a good way of doing that. All right, guys, got Mr. Chris Bossy back tonight. He was on a couple months back, right after the release of his book, Bigfoot Brothers. I believe we were the first show that he did after that release. I'm grateful for that. But we had some technical issues come up, and just had an echo, and just the audio wasn't that great. And if I remember right, got kicked out a couple of times. The connection wasn't that great. So I wanted to get Chris back because Chris and his twin brother do a lot of Bigfoot research themselves. And they're here to talk about some of the stuff that they run in, and as well as a new book that Chris has coming out. So I wanted to get him back. So if you guys have any questions at all for Chris, he's expecting them. But I ask that you send those over in all caps, please. I'm getting text from Lisa now. She's saying that she's in traffic. So Lisa, if you're able to listen, just be safe and take your time. If you make it before the show is over, that's great. Love to see you, love to have you. But if not, we'll catch up next week. But yeah, guys, like I was saying, put those questions in all caps, please. And I just now misspoke a little bit. I said that we would catch up next week. Next week, we actually are not going to be having an episode. Next week is my birthday weekend, and my wife, Jordan, and my good buddy, Mr. Walls, that was on last week, they are working with some of our Bigfoot buddies to put together a camp out weekend for me. And so looking forward to that. I really am. I can't wait to get away for a few days. And they are cool enough to put that together for me. And it's really awesome. I wasn't supposed to know about it, but they let the cat out of the bag. And it worked out because I had someone scheduled for next week. Actually had Duke from World Bigfoot Radio scheduled for next week. But I talked to Duke, and we are rescheduling that. So there won't be a show here on Paranormal Odyssey live next week. We'll be taking the week off. All right. I think we have got pretty much everything out of the way. Invite you guys to check out Manimal Research on Facebook. That's my Sasquatch research organization. A lot of time and effort goes into that. Yeah, if you are on Facebook and you know you are, run over there and become a member of our group. You can get information about maybe getting out and joining Manimal and becoming a member and doing your own research. Love to talk to you about that. All right, we got all of that out of the way. I think I'm just going to go ahead and bring Mr. Chris Bossy on. Chris, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, man. Yeah, glad to have you back. I was telling everybody before we brought you on that you were on a couple months ago to promote your book, and we didn't have good luck that episode. Hoping this one goes a lot better. I definitely wanted to talk about the research that you and your brother have been doing. So, yeah, man, I'm glad that you're able to come back.
Thank you. Thank you. I love talking about Bigfoot, thinking about Bigfoot, looking for Bigfoot.
There you go.
And learning all I can about the subject. So
before we go any further, I want to talk about something, just one of the coolest things anybody's done for me. I've started a pretty cool collection of autographed books of authors that I have interviewed over the last 3 or 4 years I've been doing this. And Chris texted me, asked me for my address, wanted to send me one, and got my autographed copy right here. And what's so cool about it is it's hardback. The first hardback copy I've ever gotten. I really appreciate that, man.
Thank you. I was just so happy with the hardback, and I think it's, it's a showpiece. So I think it's great.
It really is good quality. It is. All right, Chris, we're going to talk about, we're going to take the show in whatever direction you want to go. I want to ask you first, what started your interest in the subject of Sasquatch, and then you just take it whatever direction you want to go, buddy. Just if you want to talk about some of the research you and your brother do, or your books, or whatever. But yeah, go ahead and answer that question. What got you interested in the subject?
Probably like many people my age, when In Search Of came on TV in the early 70s, and some of those TV shows and newscasts about the Patterson-Gimlin film and hyping up that. I was just glued to the TV, fascinated about that. So was my twin brother. And we would, we were amazed. There's this hairy, monster out in the woods and stuff. And so we were just all over that. And then, but what really, I think there was something else that happened for me is when I was a little kid, my mom had gone out and she had left us with a babysitter. And I was probably 5 years old, right before kindergarten, right around that age, about 5, maybe 6, but I think 5. And she was watching this King Kong movie, and it was an old King Kong movie with a red, hairy King Kong. And we were watching it, and it was time to go to bed. And we just begged and begged and begged. No, please let us keep watching. Please let us keep watching. And she said, okay, but if your mom pulls up, you got to run and get in bed. It's like, okay. So we watch this red, hairy King Kong, and it, does the whole King Kong story. It's up on the Empire State Building. And I just remember it being red and hairy. And so we went, my mom came, we ran to bed and pretended we were asleep and all that. Well, that night I had a horrible nightmare about this red, hairy King Kong. And actually went and woke my mom up, And so somehow in my mind, that red, hairy that night, my first nightmare that I remember, and then the fascination of there's a hairy ape-like creature in the woods, somehow combined in my psyche or my person or whatever, where I'm just, for me, it's just a fascination and has been since I was a little kid. We went to Oregon. We were playing in Oregon at my great aunt's house, and we were digging. We had these little GI Joes with the kung fu grip, and we're playing in this little sand pit there that was just, I don't know, it was maybe 6 foot by 10 foot. And she rang the bell for us to go to dinner or to come for lunch. And so we buried our GI Joes in one corner. We're like, okay, it's a foot from this edge and a foot from this edge, right in the corner right here. And we buried them. Well, we never found them again. And so, of course, our theory is that Bigfoot stole our GI Joes. That somewhere out there, Bigfoot has some GI Joes.
It's a good theory as any.
We dug up that whole place looking for those GI Joes. We didn't bury them super deep, and they weren't there. And so anyway, but since we were very young, we just really been into it. And of course, then it was on in $6 Million Man in 1976, I think that was. And so it was just, for me, it's been a nonstop fascination since I was a little child. And
now you're in California, right?
Yeah, I'm in Northern California.
Okay, you are also a Baptist preacher?
I am. I'm a Baptist pastor. I've been in ministry over 32 years. Moved here from Fresno about 8 years ago.
Now, I would like to get your opinion before we go any further with your personal experiences. I've heard a lot of talk, and you and I have talked, over the last, I guess, 6 months or so, a few times, in preparation to getting your book out and everything. But I've never asked your opinion. A lot of people believe, or a lot of people have the theory that Bigfoot could be associated with Nephilim. Have you given that any thought at all, or what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't believe that there's a half human, half demon, half human, half demonic angel roaming the earth. I believe that that the flood wiped out every living creature, and that the Nephilim were before that. I really think the Nephilim was just another term for giants, because later in the Bible, when it talks about when they're afraid to go into the promise, Israelites are afraid to go in the promised land. They say, the Nephilim are there, or the descendants of Anak, and so they're saying the giants are there. Mm-hmm. And you have David and Goliath and the giant there, and that giant had brothers, and you have these giant people. And that little passage in that talks about the Nephilim in Genesis, that's talking about, it says, and they were the men of great renown, or the heroes of old. And so of ancient times, they were, we might think of super strong men, that did amazing feats. But my opinion is there is not half animal or half human, half demonic
Yeah.
beings still walking on the earth. I have no problem saying there's demonic beings and that demonic beings can possess people. That's this the idea of Nephilim is something different than that. It's that they're a hybrid, and I just don't accept that.
Yeah, I've never really bought into it much myself. I try to keep, the God and religion and everything out of it as best as possible. I do believe, though, that Bigfoot is another one of God's creations. It's something that it's another animal that He created that we just haven't caught up with. That's been my whole thinking this entire time.
Yeah, I just say nothing has been created. Nothing exists that hasn't been created
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
God. So,
All right. So, you and your brother, how often do y'all get out and get to do research?
well, we try to plan an annual trip, and my brother just informed me he's kind of over it, and that so I'm looking to start a new group, and I've got a group of guys here on the North Coast that I think we're going to go and start a group and start going as a group. But my brother's just he's kind of lost his passion for going out. I guess he doesn't really like being scared, and I kind of thrive on that adrenaline. But he doesn't really like it, doesn't enjoy it, and so he says, I don't think I want to go anymore. So I'm kind of in a readjustment phase here and figuring out who my guys are, and then kind of form. I think we're going to form a group, a Bigfoot group.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and throw up this picture that you sent me. It looks like a trail cam picture.
Yeah, the dates on it are all wrong, but that was just this last. That was in 2022, and my brother and I. This was our last trip. We went in September to Bluff Creek. We actually camped at Louse Camp, and went. And I wanted to take him to the famous Patterson Gimlin site because I had been
Yeah,
there before on an expedition. So I wanted to take him there and show him that. But we camped at Louse Camp, and Louse Camp is where Patterson Gimlin camped with the horse, and then they rode up that creek, up the creek there, up to where they had the encounter a couple miles away. And this trail cam was 6 foot off the ground on a tree. A lot of people see the picture and they think, oh, it's it's a cow, it's a cow head or it's cow. And I've showed it around to different people, and everyone sees something different when they look at it. I we don't know what it is. Um, you can see in the lower right corner how that's darker,
mm-hmm.
and then the white, the white head. It, it's a lighter gray, and then it's white. So it's got it's got some distance, a little bit of distance. Use the closer parts darker, and then the whiter parts farther away. And so I don't think it's a moth, although some people say that's just a moth on your
Don't think it's
lens.
a moth at all. I don't think
Yeah,
that's it.
but different people see different things. I see lips on the left side of the profile there. I see like a kind of a profile, some lips right there, but my brother sees something else. Yeah. He thought it was more of a goat man, actually.
Well, let me take a break here just a second. Lisa joined us, so I'm going to bring Lisa on.
Wonderful.
There she is.
It's stuck in traffic. Sorry, y'all. Hey, Chris, how are
Hi,
you?
Lisa.
Hey, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm glad that you can make it, Lisa. Glad everything's all right. I told him that you and I spoke earlier and everything was fine. That it wasn't like you to not hear from you, and I was a little bit worried about you.
Yeah, it's raining cats and dogs here, and I was stuck on Interstate 40 and just could not move for a minute. So, apologies.
Your safety is much more important than this show. So Glad everything's all right.
Yes.
We just pulled up a trail cam picture from Chris, and I'm gonna throw it back up there and see what you think about it.
Oh wow. Okay.
I can't tell if that's hair. I can't tell if that's bark. When I first saw it, I thought tree. Like I could be looking at the bark on a tree, but
I see like a slat of an eye, and I see it. To me, it looks like a goat, like the teeth and the
wow.
nostrils.
What did your brother say, Chris?
My brother said it was like a goat man, like a centaur or something. He thought it was the head. He thought that on the upper right corner, that black curve on the
Mhm.
top of the head there, he thought that was a horn.
It's
That's what it
interesting.
looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. It looks like a goat.
But this was 6 foot off the ground, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, the camera was 6 foot
Now,
high.
Chris, let me ask you this: was the camera messed with at all?
No,
It wasn't disturbed.
not at all. No.
There's something
Could it
disturbed in front of it.
could have been a goat standing on its hind legs?
Um,
Was it a
yeah,
goat?
I'd be surprised if there was a goat out in the in that area in the
This
mountains.
is in Northern California,
We,
Lisa.
we were by
Oh,
we were by
gotcha.
Bluff Creek, which is it's like
Where Patty was
18
thinking.
miles off the main highway
Yeah.
up in the mountains. So
I don't know. I keep leaving it up because I keep thinking of different. I don't know what that is. That's just weird, man.
I
And
see teeth though.
where do you see the teeth?
Just right, I mean right there in the middle. It's like teeth, and then I see nostrils like above the teeth,
Right.
like right there, and then that slit, that black dark slit looks like an eye.
I see that slit.
And then I do see the horn, the curve of the horn, but like right, the teeth and the nostrils is what popped out to me, like right out the gate.
Yeah, I see the what you're seeing is teeth. I thought those were lips, like the upper lip and lower lip right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, we can't really pick up the shape of the nose there, but I thought the little black dot was maybe an eye. And then to the right, so it looks like there's a beard or something that goes up, and then to the right, it kind of looks like a coyote head. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it does look like a coyote head a little
Like-
bit, but that horn, like I said, that curve of it almost looks. This is gonna sound really weird, but you know how like the white part looks like a skull, almost like a bone, like you would put like a bone over something.
Yeah.
All right, for those that, because I take all these episodes, Chris, and I upload them to podcast form, so it'll be uploaded to podcast as well, and it's probably going to drive the people crazy.
Oh, okay.
So when you hear this podcast, the picture will be up on social media, so it'll be up on Instagram and the Facebook page. So go check it out. Yeah, man, I can't tell if that's hair, if that's bark. Chris, what were the pictures before and after? What were they of?
We really didn't catch anything. We were there for 4 days or 5 days, and we didn't really catch anything else on that camera. That was
That
the
was the only picture?
that was the last night, and that happened sometime probably between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was really weird. Louse Camp is a weird place. If you ever camp at Louse Camp, because there's water that goes right by there, and it hits on all the rocks, and you have steep mountains all the way around. You're kind of in a bowl almost, and it sounds all the time. It sounds like people talking.
Oh wow.
It sounds like you think like someone's up on the ridge having blasting some speakers and having a campfire or something, but it's just the sound of the water and the rocks echoing through that up and down the channel, the water and the mountains there, and all the time you feel like you hear voices. the whole time.
That's
And
un-
it's really creepy. It's a really creepy spot actually to camp at and stuff. But
Now, Chris, in all the years that you and your brother have been going out, I know that he's probably getting ready to call it quits, and you're taking the steps to keep going. But the times that y'all have gone out over the years, are you confident in saying that you've had an encounter?
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Let me tell you just a few of them.
Okay.
So probably my favorite one is we went to my brother. So I'll tell you what happened to my brother, and then why we went to where we went, what happened there. My brother decided that he was going to take his son. His son was probably 12 or 13. He was going to take him backpacking, and they were going to hike to Hobbler Lake. So he lives in Fresno. It's up east of Fresno, up beyond Shaver Lake. And so they were going to hike to Hobbler Lake, and they went to the trailhead, and they went to hike. They got to hike 7 miles up to this little tiny lake, this above Courtright Dam. It's way up there in this area. It's a really hard hike, and they get a late start. They get up there. They go in October, which is a horrible time to go hiking because the snow could come, and you could be, in big trouble. But he went. And they got there kind of late in the day, and they walked around the lake looking for mud, for tracks and stuff. And they saw some bear tracks and some other stuff, but no big footprints. They set up camp that night. They're real tired. They eat. They go right to bed. I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning or so. My brother, something across the lake, and the lake's not very big. I mean, it's not big at all. Across the lake and up the hillside there, just starts screaming at him, just starts top of the lung, just screaming and yelling. And there's no one else at the lake. There's no one up there. And it's something big, and it was reverberating in his chest. And he estimates it was probably 500, yards away at the most. But it felt like it was right next to his tent. And, he sat up, scared to death, and it went off for like 15 minutes, just like screaming, just like yelling at him super loud, and he was just feeling it inside his chest. And so after that incident, he said, man, before that I mostly believed, but now I have no doubt. He goes, there's that was not human, that was not a bear, that was a Bigfoot. And so a few years later, we had done some other expeditions and stuff, other places. And he said, I want to go back there. Let's go back there. So we went back to Hobbler Lake, and his son's older now. And we brought my nephew, who was, I think, 20 or so. And my nephew was a total skeptic. And so he did not believe that these things are real, that they exist. So we go and we hike up there, and we set up camp, and we're going to do a night hike. And we had scouted out a spot earlier in the day, my brother and I, that we wanted to go to do some calls from. So we waited till the people around the lake, the other campers, were asleep and everything was quiet. And we put a little recorder in our, left a recorder on, audio recorder on in our campsite. And we went up into the forest with just little headlamps on. And we're going up. And we're hiking up, and we get lost. We missed our spot. We were going to take a turn and whatever, and we get lost. We wander around a while. Finally, we're going up this steep hillside, and I'm leading the way, and I see a rock ahead of me in the light that I have from my headlamp. I see a rock hit the ground and bounce, and it's a little rock about the size of a nickel or a quarter at the most, and it bounces and rolls. I say, oh, something might have thrown a rock. So I don't say anything. I just keep going, and just again a few minutes later, boom, another rock or pebble, good, pretty decent size pebble hits the ground and rolls into a bush ahead of me. I'm going, okay, something's throwing rocks. Bear throw rocks, There's no one up. No one's following us up this mountain in the middle of the night, throwing rocks at us. Something's going on. And then I thought I heard someone in the back say rock, say the word rock, and I stopped and went, what was that? Did someone get hit? Someone see a rock? And my nephew, who's the skeptic's in the back of the line, he's holding the back of his head. He's going, man, I don't know if it was a rock, but something just hit me in the back of the head, and I got a welt. And he had a bump on the back of his head where something hit him. He goes, it was probably just a squirrel or something. And I go, wait a minute, come on, back up, show me right where you were when it hit you. And so he backs up and he looks, he goes, I'm here, I was right here in this spot. I go, okay, look up. There's all clear sky. It was a little opening. He was not under a tree right there. I go, the nearest tree was, probably more than 10 yards away from that spot he was in. And I said, now, you're not under a tree. And it hit you not on the top of the head, it hit you in the back of the head. And you got a welt. I go, and look on the ground under these trees that are here. And we look on the ground, and all there are these little spongy pine cone seeds. I don't know what species of pine tree it was, but they're these little spongy seeds. They're not hard. They're not green. You throw them, they might go 3 feet. They have no weight to them. They're real airy and real light. And I go, there's no acorns on the ground. There's no hard pine cones on the ground. There's these little seeds, that didn't put a welt on you on the back of your head. And so he goes,
go ahead, Chris.
He says, well, I didn't see it, so I'm not going to say it was a Sasquatch, but I got a welt. And so that happened. And we kept going.
In my opinion, the rock throwing. First off, I've said it a couple of times in my few years of doing the research. There's 2 things attributed to Bigfoot or Sasquatch activity that most people claim that I haven't experienced myself, and that's the rock throwing. I've never had anything thrown at me, and I've never smelt it. Had the smell that people talk about. I'm still missing those 2. But to me, the evidence of rock throwing, that's pretty substantial in my opinion. What else can throw a rock? People.
Yeah.
People throw rocks. If you're confident there's no other people and there's no one else throwing these things, what else could it be? Bears don't throw rocks. Squirrels.
Well, the dexterity of your hand to pick up the rock and throw it.
Something with hands.
Exactly.
Is what throws. I mean, monkeys throw. We've seen that. I mean, there's not a lot of monkeys in Northern California, are there? Other than Bigfoot.
Not in the forest. I mean, no, but you see monkeys throw that kind of underhand throw if they're throwing poop at the zoo or whatever they're doing. I mean, it's kind of an underhand chuck, but they're pretty accurate with it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least I've experienced that at the zoo. I don't know if anyone else has, but
yeah, unfortunately.
So we kept going. We kept going up, and we found the granite opening. There was a granite opening that we wanted to get to do some calls from on the side of this mountain. And so we get up there, and my brother says, I'm gonna do a call. I'm gonna do kind of like a shriek, scream kind of thing. I say, all right, go for it. And so we all sit down and we're getting our places, and he's gonna do it. He goes, okay, here goes. And he does his call. And 7 seconds after he does his call, we hear this loud boom, boom. And it sounded like 2 railroad cars slamming together. You know how when they're linking up, how they slam together? That's what it sounded like. It sounded like 2 of them. The first one was louder. The second one was loud, but not quite as loud. And we figured that was a huge tree getting pushed over and hitting another tree as it fell to the ground. And, we didn't see it, but what other explanation? We couldn't think of any other explanation for that noise. And it was across the mountain somewhere, and there was no wind. There was 0 wind. It hadn't been raining. It was the end of summer.
So Chris, did it sound metallic or
no?
Not like a metal?
It didn't sound metallic. It just the loud boom though you know, it sounded like something big slamming, you know, hitting the ground. We figured it was a big tree getting pushed over, and that it hit something else on the way down. The next day, we found a big tree. We can't, of course, didn't know if that was the one that got pushed over or not. But you know, the thing is, like, okay, trees do fall in the forest, but the fact that it happened 7 seconds after he did this call,
Yeah.
that's a lot of coincidence. And so we have the audio recording down in the camp, which picked up his call and the sound of the two booms, the tree falling. So that was probably I think one of our most exciting trips.
Yeah, that's exciting when you hear a tree fall. It's happened to me in my entire life. I've heard one tree fall, and it happened to me twice in the same day on a Bigfoot expedition.
Oh wow.
It was like 2 years ago. It was actually our very first Squatch out, or our annual camp out. We had Janice Carter with us, and a couple other people, and had a tree fall in the middle of daylight, and then later that night. And now keep in mind, this was like 40 miles apart. The first time we drove to do an investigation at someone's house, they had seen something on their property, and as we're getting ready to leave, we hear this tree fall that was close. Freaked us out. You know, I'd never heard a tree fall. And later that night, it wasn't long before we were going to turn in. It probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. We heard another one across the road from us. I'm like, what are the chances? 30 or 40 miles apart, same day, 42 years of my life. I've never heard it before, and I hear it twice in the same night in the same vicinity. So, I mean, there's coincidences, but I don't know.
That's a big coincidence.
Yeah.
I had it. So I have two vocalization stories.
Okay.
I was a youth pastor in Fresno, for at the same church there for more than 25 years. And so we'd go to summer camp up at Camp Sugar Pine Christian Camp, which is up above Oakhurst and just before Yosemite. And so we're at camp, and I would sneak out my kids for night hikes and stuff. I'd tell the camp staff, I'd tell them, hey, I'm going to get my kids out after everyone goes to bed. We're going to sneak out. We'll be real quiet, you know. And so this one year I had 50 kids at high school camp. And I said, we had already done, I think we usually would do like a talent show one night. We'd go down to the railroad picnic area, which was just about maybe a mile and a half at the most away from the camp. We'd hike down a fire road to this place where the railroad, Sugar Pine Railroad, would come, and it would have a stop in the picnic area, a bunch of picnic tables and a little amphitheater and stuff, and a break. And then they'd turn the corner on that mountain and go back up the mountain to go back to the depot. And so we'd always go down there for talent show. Well, the next night I said, hey, we're not going to do talent show tonight. Tonight we're going on a Bigfoot hunt. So anyone who wants to go can go. Anyone that wants to stay back, some of the counselors will stay back, and you can stay back. You don't have to go if you don't want to go, if you don't like being scared or don't want to go out, whatever. So I ended up with like 25 high schoolers.
Wow.
And 25 high schoolers, and at camp, I'd put the guy's cabin, my guy's cabin, if I had 10 in my cabin or whatever, I'd put my cabin to sleep by telling Bigfoot stories. And so they'd always wake up the next day. How did that one story end? You got to tell it again tonight. I fell asleep. So we go and we hike, and I had gone down there and scouted out, down by the picnic area, the railroad picnic area, where there was a log off the path right there. And I found a big dead log, and I tested out in the daytime. I said, that's going to make a great knock. And this is mountain that the railroad turns, and it's just steep forested hillside all the way around like a bowl. And there's a little tiny creek. So there's water, There's steep terrain. There's great cover. I'm like, this is the perfect place, right? So I take the kids. We get down there. I tell them, okay, they're standing on the fire road. I said, I'm gonna go up here. It's just, maybe it's 20 yards at the most. All right, up here, I got a large branch right next to this log. I'm gonna whack the heck out of that log one or two times. And it's gonna be really loud because it's quite, it's gonna echo all over here in this area. But you gotta hold still for 15 or 20 minutes and just see if something happens. I'm not gonna come walking back down because it'll make too much noise. I'm just gonna sit up there. You guys sit right here or stand right here, but no moving around. So I go up in there, and I go wham as hard as I can, right? Wood knock hard as I can on this dead log. It makes this loud knock, echoes right away. Like probably within 5 seconds after I did that, we hear this super deep, like a rumbling growl, like really low frequency growl. It's just like, but it was like so long, and we felt it inside our guts, like we were shaking, like we were standing in front of a speaker at a concert. And the kids are down, and they start freaking out. Chris, we gotta go. I felt that inside me. We gotta go now. And they started freaking out. I got football players. They're all freaking out. I had one girl having a panic attack. We had to carry her out most of the way out. And I couldn't. I was like, please, can we just stay here? Let's just stay here a little bit. Let's just see what happens. And they're just like, no, we're leaving. And so that was pretty exciting. And I know a lot of those kids became believers that day that there's something out there. I mean, we didn't see it, but I looked it up, and I don't, bears. I listened to all kinds of bear recordings. I didn't heard any bear growl like that. Mountain lions don't growl. They scream, but they don't growl. They don't purr. And I'm just like, okay, I believe it was a Bigfoot, but I didn't see it. So, there's always that, who knows, that little question mark because you didn't see it. But then another one, my brother and I went to Gold Beach, Oregon a couple years ago because they shut down all the forest in California. You couldn't go camping anywhere because of the fires a couple years ago. I have to see what year that was, 2021. They shut down all the campgrounds, all the forest in California. You couldn't go anywhere to camp. And so we went to Oregon, and we went to Gold Beach, Oregon, and we had a couple things happen. We were camping. One night we had our tent, got a nice, something brushed our tent. My brother woke me up. Something was brushing against our tent down by our feet. And you could see that, the nylon fabric moving in a little bit as something was pushing against it. And then there were deer. They kept coming into the camp, and they come walking into the camp, and they'd hide in the bushes there, but they wouldn't leave. We'd walk over to them. They wouldn't leave. They just stay there. And we're like, which was just so strange. You don't expect deer to stick around when you walk close to them. Except when they take off. And then we had gone out and set up trail cam, and we had tried to do a gifting or a bait station type thing, and we hadn't had anything, but we found where we had the trail camera, we found an X, and we made note of that. We wanted to go investigate that the next day. So we went to go investigate this X, which, everyone says that's some kind of a marker. Either it says don't go this way, or a lot of people say it means don't go this way, right? I don't know if we really know what it means, but we went to go look at it. And I want to get some close pictures of it and go examine it, make sure it was just some natural thing, naturally occurring thing. And so one branch, one large tree, basically, had no roots. It had been shoved down in the ground about 5 or 6 inches. Had no roots at all. Had been broken off. It had been actually placed there, shoved down in the ground, leaning against this other tree, which had actually a fork in the tree, and that tree was bent, and this one was leaning over. So we're standing there looking at it, and up the ridge, which is real steep, right above us, comes this loud growl as we're standing there looking at this thing and examining it. This loud, long growl, and we didn't feel that one in our chest, but it was loud enough that my brother said, "Well, I think it's time to go." So we went ahead and left. And the next day we tried to climb up that steep hillside but there was the bush up on the top, was so thick that even if there was no way to find any kind of footprints or it was so thick you couldn't get through it. But something on that ridge growled at us while we're sitting there looking at an X, and we thought that was pretty exciting. But
Yeah, I've never heard the growl either, but I've heard once you do, you can't forget it. Like you feel it as much as you hear it.
yeah,
I've heard the loud screams like sound like a woman being murdered. I've heard that. That's certainly very, very unsettling,
yeah.
terrifying to hear.
Now,
So
have you ever compared what you heard there to like foxes mating?
no,
When foxes mate, it sounds like a woman getting murdered.
really,
It sounds like a female woman screaming and getting murdered or raped or something. If you
I
look it
wonder,
up and listen.
I don't know
Wow.
about that. I wonder if that's what people are hearing because I've always heard the scream sounds like a woman being murdered.
I know, like when a mountain lion screams, because we've got mountain lions that come through here, periodically, and that's a sound you'd never forget once you've heard that mountain lion scream. That's insane.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. See if I can't. That's interesting. It is.
Yeah,
All right, Chris, you want to talk about your books, bud?
yeah, yeah. So I've got Bigfoot Brothers, which came out in August, and that's the one you've already mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead, pop it up there for
Yeah,
everybody to see.
there
Where
it
can
is.
everybody find it?
Yeah, that's on Amazon. Uh, you can also find that online at Walmart or Target. But you'll find it online, not in the stores. Probably find it online at Barnes and Noble. But Amazon's easy. Find that on Amazon. And then I just wrote a children's book, and that's already out on Kindle. The Kindle version, the ebook's out, and this is Bigfoot's Alphabet Forest Friends. And so Bigfoot's going to teach your child the ABCs and introduce them to animals in the United States.
That's really cool.
And yeah, it's great. I'm having trouble getting the paperback uploaded. I thought it was going to happen today, but there was a problem still. So hopefully by the end of the weekend or very early next week, that paperback version will drop. But it is available now in Kindle in ebook form.
Can you go ahead and purchase the paper, or you got to wait till that's?
Yeah, I haven't put it for pre-sale yet for paperback. I just trying to get that. I've actually got 5 children's books that I'm releasing all at once.
Oh, wow.
This is the only one that's about Bigfoot. The other 4 are 3 of them are about Tyler Turtle, and the other one's about Elmer the elephant. But I thought this one would be relevant for your station.
Yeah, I've got my daughter is 20 months old, so nowhere near ready to read yet or learning her alphabets just yet. But she's not far, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
pick.
You can read to her.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of designed to read to. to read to your child. It's not really designed for them to go, A is for apple. It's more for you to read to them.
Oh, that's cool.
And it
I
has
have a
interesting
question.
facts about all the animals. Yes.
And Wayne, you might have addressed this earlier when I was stuck in traffic on I-40. How do you, like, with your faith, you being a youth pastor and Bigfoot, how do you connect those two?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm actually even a lead pastor now. But for me, Bigfoot's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I think exists. I think it's an animal. And, I think it's an undiscovered uh, animal.
Yeah.
And so for me, looking for the evidence and the things that are there, it doesn't take it's not like something of faith, I would say. Maybe I have faith that it exists, maybe, but
Hmm.
I think there's enough anecdotal evidence, which is a form of evidence. We would accept that from an eyewitness in a court. We
Oh,
would
yeah.
we would accept that, and so I accept, that. I think for my faith, I accept also my own experience with God, but I also look at the evidence there too.
Right.
Look at the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. I look at the evidence, the eyewitness testimonies, the eyewitness accounts of Jesus risen from the dead and his life and teachings. And he was a historical, actual, human being, God in the flesh, in my opinion, that came to save us. And so for me, yes, there's faith. It's not just I accept the facts and it's true, but there is faith because I can't see God. I can see the evidence of God. I can see his fingerprints everywhere in creation. And I think everything points to a creator, but for me, and I would say, yeah, there's a lot of evidence that points to a creator, but at some point you still have to decide to put your faith.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to make that choice you're going to accept God by faith, the God that you can't see, that you can't touch, that's not in front of you, or you're going to accept God by faith.
Well,
You know?
with the Bigfoot foot and the Sasquatch, I was just trying to see how, like, you married, but
Yeah.
you seeing it as an animal, and I know World Bigfoot Radio just said on here,
Yeah, I was about
says,
to pop that
yeah,
in. And
that
I,
no,
I kind of agree with Duke here. This is Duke from World Bigfoot Radio, who we've
Uh,
got scheduled to come on later. To disagree, they have a language. Animals don't speak. I mean, that's strong right there.
so
That's a strong.
that is, but I would also say that all animals have
They
communication with
communicate.
their own species. So you have, dolphins and whales which communicate. You have, you know, primates, gorillas communicate,
Yeah,
chimpanzees communicate, whether it's little things that we can't see, little postures, they communicate. There was a story about chimpanzees. I can't remember if it was in England or where, but these chimpanzees that were on an island actually coordinated and planned and took the keepers
the
and took off.
keys.
Yeah, they took the keeper was coming over to feed him. Somehow they got him. They got the boat and were breaking off the island. And it was a coordinated planned thing. It wasn't just like an accident. They had like schemed and planned it somehow. I think animals do communicate with each other, and maybe we don't give primates enough credit for their communication abilities. As far as verbalizations, and yeah, I'm fascinated by the verbalizations that we hear in the Sierra Sounds and those other things.
That's
oh
what I thought
yeah,
the
But
Sierra Sounds, and then Scott Nelson broke that stuff down, and he's convinced that they're speaking a language. They have their own language, and
yeah,
other animals communicate with each other, like you said, maybe non-verbally, But Sasquatch, it sounds like they actually have words and they're talking to each other. That opens up a whole new can of worms that we don't have time to get
I
into.
know. Sorry.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun to think about it.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Chris, you got anything else before we get out of here, buddy? But before that, I did want to touch on what you said about the anecdotal evidence and that being accepted. I've said it 1,000 times. If this was a murder case, a murder trial, we would have enough evidence to convict.
Oh
There,
yeah,
there's enough circumstantial evidence out there to suggest an unidentified primate living in North America.
exactly.
Chris. All
Yeah.
right, Chris, you got anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote or push or anything before we get out of here?
No, I just encourage people to uh, enjoy the woods and get out and enjoy creation. I think there's a lot more to enjoy than there is to be afraid of. Still take your precautions, but you know,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's here to enjoy and enjoy it before it's gone.
Yep.
Very, very well said. All right, buddy. When again before we go, when will the kids book be out in paperback?
Yeah, it depends on the uh, the file. I had uploaded it. Amazon sent it back and said you got to fix a couple margins here. My artist fixed some things, and I'm trying to upload it tonight. So it could be live. The paperback could be live by Sunday or Monday.
If you will shoot me a text when it is, I'll make an announcement on our next show and put it on our social media as well. And everybody, pick you up a copy of Bigfoot Brothers. I have read quite a bit of it. Chris actually sent it before it was released. I was one of the few that he sent a copy of, and unfortunately, with the small baby, I wasn't able to get it done. But what I have read, I really, really enjoy. I think it's really, really well done. And everybody, go to Amazon and pick you up a copy of Bigfoot Brothers.
Thank you very
Chris,
much.
thank you so very much, sir, for taking the time to come and hang out. It was fun.
Yes.
Thank you. I love the show.
Yeah,
Keep
thank
it
you. I
up.
appreciate that. All right, buddy.
All right.
We will talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Bye,
Have a good
Lisa.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Chris. Just an all around good dude. He really is. All right, Lisa. Glad you were able to make it, ma'am.
I slid in so late. I'm so sorry.
All right, you're
Um,
okay.
that I'm gonna have to definitely read that book. And we had a question. I should have brought it up, but about that picture,
Oh, I didn't see.
and it Carson said it looked like what a skinwalker would wear.
I saw that. Looked like the headdress of a skin.
Of a skinwalker, which I thought that was very interesting.
That's just creepy right there.
But what was the one creature that y'all were talking about? I think it was one of the very first episodes I was on. When Wendigo
Wendigo.
or
Wendigo.
yeah, yeah.
Something else I'm not real familiar with, but they're supposed to be something you don't want to run into either.
But that actually, I pulled one up, and I wish I could share it on screen. I got to get this figured out. But it kind of looked like that. It's very odd.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't know, Lisa. Before you jumped on, I mentioned next week. Did you hear me talking about that?
No.
We won't be having a show next week.
Okay.
I had Duke, who's been participating, who had the awesome comment about the communication. Duke was scheduled for next week, but next weekend is my birthday weekend.
Happy
And
birthday.
thank you. Wife and a couple of my Bigfoot buddies, including Walls that was on last week. He's actually putting it together. They're taking me camping, kind of Bigfooting for my birthday.
Fun.
So thank you. Yeah, I think so. Can't wait. I cannot wait. But so there's no show next Friday. We had Duke scheduled, and I talked to Duke last night, and he graciously agreed to reschedule with me. Thank you again for that, Duke. I appreciate it, buddy. So yeah, no show next week. We will see you the week after. Lisa, you got anything before we get out?
Nope. Everybody have a great weekend and stay safe and stay warm and I'm loving all this. Thanks for bringing me into this world.
Yeah, very cool. Glad to have you. It's certainly been a lot easier since you've come along. All right, guys, everybody, y'all be good. Be good to each other. We'll see you next time.